Looking for a roller coaster ride through tales of deceit, drama, and unexpected twists? Welcome to The Ugly Truth.
Welcome back to The Ugly Truth. Today, we are going to talk about how I found out he was a PI, and also every time we go out, we introduce ourselves, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a real estate broker in real estate. And then I'm like, my husband is a private investigator. And they're like, whoa, like, no way. You must have some great stories. You gotta tell me, oh my gosh, I can be a PI too, because I am the best, like, FBI and searching things. And, well, it's not that quite easy. I honestly, when I met you, I really didn't think it was real. Because what I envision as being a PI, and I'm sorry, it's like, you know,
Inspector Gadget.
Yes. So that I loved that cartoon. Yeah. So that's what I really like envisioned. I know that sounds like really childish, but I really didn't understand what it was and if it was like a real, like a job. Like, you know, is this something like he made up? I don't know. Maybe I'm clueless, but
is it real being a licensed stalker? Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's what he calls it. Licensed. So when we meet people, it's very fascinating about his job. So, and then they ask us, they ask him first. They don't ask me, because we all know about realtors and how they all get started. And my story is not that interesting, but his is. He's got a really good story. And again, I admit I did not know what it was or what he did until, and that's another episode when I went on a case with him. I was like, wow, this is real. So I'm just going to talk about that. So when we met, like we met at a bar. That's a whole other episode too. But when we met, I was like, you know, what do you do? At that time, I worked for the state of Connecticut as a DCF social worker. And he was like, he's like, I'm a private investigator. And this is how it went.
Okay. So basically, when back in 1992, the tail end of the Rodney King riots in California, I was a youngin' and I was looking to maybe become a police officer. But after watching how the media treated the police then, as in some cases now, I decided public was not really for me. So I was looking for a different direction. One day I was watching a movie, Bruce Willis, God bless him, and Damon Wayans in The Last Boy Scout. And I said, you know what, son of a bitch, private. That's a pretty cool job, even though it was kind of a rundown PI in the movie. I didn't really want to have that portrayal, but I decided to look into that avenue. And I did. I used security experience I had from running stores. And back then, we used to chase people down and tackle them when they were stealing. Not like today where they're just letting everybody run out the door with items. So I used that and I put it into a resume. And this was pre-email and pre-Google and all that. So I was faxing and calling and banging on phones for 8 months until I got one guy, an older gentleman, Ed Day out of Hartford. He said, you know what, I'm sick and tired of hearing from you. He goes, all right, come in, I'll train you. I said, all right. Now, when I went in there, I was learning, we were doing some surveillance and cheating spouses and a couple of child custody things, and that was all cool. But what really locked me into being an investigator forever was one of the first cases where a gentleman called him who was housed at the Institute of Living. It's a mental health facility here in Connecticut. And he was in an area where it was security, couldn't get out. But he contacted this investigator who I worked for, and he set up a meeting. We went in, we met with him, and this guy apparently was loaded. He wanted us to go down in his private Leer Jet to North Carolina to do a few things down there at his mansion and around the area, and then fly it back and give him back his the items that he had listed to bring to him. And then, of course, I, being 21 years old, 22, whatever it was, on a Leer Jet, have a nice cocktail on the way down to North Carolina and back. I mean, come on, how are you going to beat that? But we got everything accomplished. He was happy, and I was in heaven as a private investigator, definitely. Until, of course, he then wanted us to get a private helicopter, land on top of the facility and break them out. We had to say, no, sorry.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
No. But yeah, that's how I became a PI. And after that case, I was hooked for sure.
And that's, so when you called, because it's like you were calling and faxing. Yes, it was fax back in the day. It was not, emailing and what everyone does. You really had to work underneath somebody, because I know in my field, like, which I think they should change this, but that's just my opinion. After 2 years, well, we as a realtor, you get your license and then you work under a broker for 2 years, and then you can take the exam and the classes to become a broker, so you can own your own company. And so you were just trying to get in. You're just like
Yeah.
I need to get in. I need to work underneath somebody. So do you have to take classes? Like, what is the whole process? Because with us, it's, yeah, you take the classes. Pretty much anyone can take a class and do it and then pass the exam.
Which is not an easy exam.
No, it's not. But, again, they take it. But, again, they have to work underneath somebody for a certain period of time and learn. In the brokers, when they take it, they only need 2 years of, working underneath the broker to become a broker.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's different in every state. Here in Connecticut, you have to do a mandatory full-time, 40-hour a week on the books as an apprenticing investigator under a licensed investigative company. That's just mandatory, no way around it. Background checks, FBI background checks, everything. And then you just have to file everything, wait for the state to approve it, and get your licensing and so forth. But that 5 years is mandatory. But that's not everywhere. Now, going off of some older regulations, because I haven't kept up with them, because I haven't been licensing these states in quite a while, but Massachusetts, which is our neighbor here from Connecticut, New York is both 2 years full-time before you can qualify. Massachusetts, 2 years, then you can file and be approved, background checks.
Okay.
But New York, you have to take a test, or had to then take a test, do the background and everything else. But every state has. There are even some states here in the United States. I don't know exactly which ones they are. Out in the Midwest, I think, in the West somewhere, where you don't need a license at all. You can just literally just say I'm a PI and go out and be a PI. I guess I don't really know how that works out because literally without
How does that work?
Yeah, without.
Hey, by the way, I'm just a PI. I just want to be a
Yeah,
PI today.
I mean-
Just get some cards and a badge or whatever you guys carry. I mean, I don't.
Exactly. It's like getting out of 4 years of college in any industry and becoming the CEO. You're not going to what the hell you're doing. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
That kind of reminds me of that show that we watched. That guy that's not a police officer and he has that car. He has a gremlin.
Oh, yeah. Justified. Yeah.
Yeah, he drives around. He's not a cop.
Yeah.
And he's just driving around.
Yeah, I forget his name, but yeah, he's a character, all right.
Yeah,
that guy.
is that like what it is?
He's a constable in the town, which
okay.
is it's still an officer, but well, forget about that show because that guy's an unrealistic constable for sure.
Okay, well,
No
I was
doubt
just
about
thinking
it.
when you said that you can just walk around and just be like a PI.
Yeah,
in
well,
another state.
that's the problem, and they're doing a lot of different changes in licensing because of these things. For an example, just because we're on licensing here now. The laws recently just changed, and I forget the state. I had a video up recently Las Vegas, where you could literally put a GPS tracking device on anybody, not just a PI. Anybody can put a GPS tracking device on any car they wanted to. No reason, no rhyme. You could just walk up
Really?
and slip it on a car, and it didn't matter. It didn't have any laws against it until a private detective was hired during a political season, and he put it
Okay.
on the mayor's car. And when the mayor found it, the mayor. And when the mayor found it, she went ballistic. It was a nightmare. It was a whole thing. They went after the PI, everything. But he didn't break any laws because that's what was on the books. So now they just recently passed, I read, where you can no longer put it on for any reason whatsoever in that state. So I'm not sure if it's gone through the entire cycle, if it's actually been fully approved yet, but I know it was definitely happening. So as these yahoos go out and do things they're not supposed to, even though in that case he was well within his rights, that's when things end up changing. Same with licensing.
Yeah. Ours changed somewhat. I mean, you don't have to have a place. You could work out of your home because everybody works out of their home. Before it was you had to have a place.
Yeah, brick and mortar, you had to have a space.
You had to, and I guess the credentials too, they might have changed, but when I went, a certain amount of closings you had to have, but also broker law and all these other classes, which in my personal opinion, I think it should be 5 years because I don't think in 2 years you as an agent really even know what you're doing. It's a wild, wild west right now in real estate. So I can go all day talking about the new agents that came in during COVID and just...
It's always funny how, and this is, of course from you, it's always funny how when the markets go down or up, market goes up, everybody's signing on to be a new realtor. Market goes down, all those same people,
bye-bye, they're all gone.
They bow out and
Yes,
call it a day because
yeah.
they just can't make it in the industry. So it's not an easy industry if you're not established and you don't work hard to try to get that, or those cold call leads or whatever they are. You don't got the business coming in, you're not going to make it in that industry. It's tough.
And there's a lot of patience, as you know. You've seen me do it for a long time,
Yeah.
even when I've done it as a social worker and
Sure.
therapist, doing it part-time, it's still a lot of dedication. It's a lot. And it's hard out there, and this business is dealing with people. A lot of it is dealing with people, and things have changed. And this, we'll talk about how he talks to his clients versus how I talk to my clients, because we don't share the same office. He's very loud. I'm loud, but I'm not loud and like disrespectful. And how he talks.
I'm not either, in my opinion.
No, I mean, you are loud. So we have to have separate offices because the way he speaks.
I'm pretty straightforward with my clients. I don't baby them. I don't butter them.
I don't baby my clients.
I just tell
what
them
are you
the facts.
saying? Like I just customer service is different in art. He gave me that look like, yeah, okay. But I don't sugarcoat anything in real estate at all. If you know me and I've worked with you, I'm straightforward. It is what it is. But customer service, and we've owned our business, we both handled our customer service different when we owned Cromwell Granite too as well. So we're just two different type of people when it comes to the customer service. That's all. It's nothing to do with it. Our business, especially real estate, a lot of mine is, referrals and how you handle your clientele. And that's how I handle it. He says baby, but I mean, it's a lot of work. It is.
Mine's technically a lot of referrals too, from insurance companies, law firms, businesses, things like that. But the general public calling in for, infidelity, child custody cases, background checks, locating people they haven't seen in a while. Yeah, those are usually not too often repeat. Sometimes they are, because I'll catch somebody cheating and they'll forgive them, the spouse. And then 2 years later, they'll say, I think he's doing it again. So they'll hire me again.
But I think you're a little bit different in tolerating what, and the things that we do as agents and brokers, we go above and beyond. If you're that type of agent, he would never. He's helped me in a couple of occasions, and he's like, what? He's like, oh my gosh, he's like, that is too above and beyond. But
I would never.
He says that all the time. He's like, I would never. Are you kidding me? He's like, he's more like fend for yourself kind of thing. Like, no, like, and a lot of it has to do is, we got to get the deal done. That's what I tell him. We got to get the deal done. We got to close. I mean, but, we laugh at each other because when I hear him talk on the phone, it's just hilarious. I'm like, oh my God, I would never say that. Oh my God,
sounds great to me on the phone.
Like, I'm like, do you realize I got to record him one day just so you guys can hear him? Then you can tell me if it's tough or if it's not tough. But we're getting off the topic.
Oh, yeah, way off.
But that's how we met. Yes, at a bar. And again, that's a whole episode. But I really didn't understand what a private investigator does and what it is and what it entails. And it is more than what you think, because a lot of people are like, oh, I can find them on Facebook. I can find them this. It's more than that. It's hard to find some people. I'm sure it was very hard to find people. I won't mention the one person that you didn't.
Yeah, we'll leave that one out.
He's pretty good at finding them very well, but there was one person. We won't get into details.
But they were somebody who was across the country, and they're like they were hiding behind different shell companies. I mean, it was a real, and it probably could have found them, but the client couldn't afford to keep me going forever to try to break through all these shields that this person had. It was a high profile person, but we won't get into any details on that.
But he pretty much does. He's even, I think our next episode will touch the different cases he's had.
Oh, yeah. Got a lot of cases and information now. Again, not going to disclose current clients I'm working for and so forth, but I got scenarios and stories that you will not believe.
Absolutely. So we just wanted to introduce us a little bit so you get to know.
Yeah.
Again, when he met me, I was a social worker for the Department of Children and Families, and that was in 1999. And that's after that, I did get my license in real estate, and then I left the department. 2008, I became an in-home therapist for a nonprofit, Klingberg Family Centers, which I loved working there, and they took me back when Lilia was born 2 years later. So like about 2013, 2012. So it's amazing. Love working with children and families. It's just very, very tough. It's not easy.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah. It's a very difficult job emotionally and mentally. But I love it. I always be involved. But real estate has always been the number one since 1999, 2000, and then just working part-time, full-time, and it was a lot. It's a lot. You can't, it's very hard to juggle real estate with a job. It really is. You can do it. I'm not saying you can't, but a lot of things we do, he's like, there's no way you could do that if you worked full-time job.
No.
With listings and staging, and just being
sweeping
there.
And moving and
yeah, I mean, all the extras that nobody tells you about, or if you just a regular agent that just, let me just throw the house on there and take some pictures with my phone and with dirty clothes there, not moving things with mops there and animals, like, then that's your thing. That's great. Good for you. I'm not judging, but that's not how I do my listings. Or, I mean, he knows I'm moving furniture, I'm doing things. You do what you have to do to get the deal done. That's how I see it. And he's the same way with his job, but in different way.
Oh, it's definitely different.
Totally different.
Way different.
So if you have any questions about anything, or you want a topic that we want to discuss, let us know. You can email us at
alltruthisugly@gmail.com.
You can direct message us too at The Ugly Truth on Facebook too as well, and also on Instagram. So this is just a little bit of an introduction of who we are, so you know what we're about. And then we're going to get to the nitty gritty, which is definitely, he's got a lot. And then we laugh about it because, yes, I do go on some cases with him. And I can't believe some of the stuff that people do when they're cheating.
Yes, we got a lot to come.
A lot.
It's going to be action-packed, episode after episode. We just wanted to give you a little introduction to who we were before we got started with all the heat and craziness. So keep on following, click on there and definitely check us out. Subscribe to us. And again, thank you for watching The Ugly Truth. Check you later.
You've been listening to The Ugly Truth.